Alexandra, so many emotions right now. First of all,
Miami witnessed an absolute emotional meltdown from Alex following an unexpected on-air homage by Jessica Soho, words that literally left the entire Philippine archipelago weeping. Step back inside court Eva Tennis, your premier destination for the most spellbinding, pulse-pounding, deeply profound narratives across the tennis universe. We have documented endless tear-jerking milestones over the seasons, shocking major tournament triumphs that silenced entire countries, heartbreaking goodbyes from icons leaving their lifelong passion, alongside miraculous resurrections that forced grown men and women to bawl inside jammed arenas. Yet, this particular broadcast stands entirely alone. We are looking at an occurrence so unfiltered, so breathtakingly vulnerable, and so intensely profound that it completely fractured the digital world while bringing a whole republic to its knees in absolute awe. So keep those tissues close. We are plunging into the tale of a fierce Filipina gladiator who wept uncontrollably not from defeat, not from physical pain, but due to an homage so overwhelming, sudden, and deeply soul-shaking that it echoed through millions of beating hearts. Miami's atmosphere grew insanely heavy. The feeling was so intense that even the absolute toughest souls on tour broke down completely. We are speaking of the singular, the unmatched, the absolute heartbeat of the Philippines, Alexandra Eala, and that exact Miami meltdown that caused her entire homeland to sob right beside her. Before unpacking this entire saga, we must first grasp the sheer gravity of what Alex currently battles every single day. Recognizing the massive burden crushing her youthful frame turns this Miami breakdown into something infinitely more staggering. Alexandra transcends being merely an athlete. She operates as an emblem, a banner, a breathing proof that a Filipina kid can crash into the absolute most ruthless, vicious, and agonizingly punishing global professional sports arena and outright dominate rather than merely scraping by. Every 7 days, she clashes with rivals armed with decades of premium coaching, funded by wealthy tennis empires, gigantic associations, and endless corporate cash. But despite all that, she remains planted right there, Alexandra Eala, holding her ground across the court, ripping forehands as if destined by the universe for this exact combat. She remains an unstoppable, authentic hurricane. And during this pivotal chapter of her journey, she is warring fiercely to shatter the ceiling into the ultimate supreme echelon of the sport. Alexandra Eala currently suffers through the agonizing trenches of the pro circuit, carrying an almost suffocating amount of stress. Everything is on the line, and her entire homeland dissects every solitary point she battles for. Visualize the scene. Alex is stationed in Miami, totally consumed by the agonizing psychological and bodily toll of tournament life. This Miami tournament stands as a majestic diamond of the tour, a compulsory heavyweight battlefield pulling virtually every global titan down to Florida. The surfaces play blisteringly quick. The blazing sun is merciless, her opponents are savage, and the crowd energy is absolute dynamite. Alex wears that glaring, distinct aura of a fighter desperate to validate her existence. She is trapped in that suffocating, hyper-focused athletic trance where everything beyond the baseline completely dissolves into nothingness. Her native soil feels universes away. Reality shrinks down to the warrior, her weapon, and the sphere. Then, in a singular heartbeat, the entire world shifts. Oceans apart in the motherland, she abandoned as a 12-year-old kid to hunt down an impossible ambition. A massive spectacle is broadcasting live across Philippine screens. Jessica Soho. If you do not know the name, understand that she is far beyond a mere reporter. Grasping her monumental influence is the only way to comprehend why her words struck Alex with such devastating force. Jessica Soho transcends the concept of a broadcasting legend. She stands undeniably as the single most venerated, cherished, and believed voice in the entire lifespan of the nation's journalism. She is the master of masters in her field, a titan whose very sentences bear the moral gravity of 100 million people. Whenever Jessica opens her mouth, the archipelago falls dead, silent, and pays absolute attention, zero exceptions. She refuses to dispense cheap compliments, despises clickbait broadcasting, and absolutely never honors anyone without complete, soul-deep sincerity. Thus, when she grabbed her mic to spotlight Alexandra Eala, it was a glaring siren that history was actually being written. Armed with her signature commanding presence, Jessica dropped a soliloquy about the young star that injected pure chills into every Filipino watching, from the streets of Manila to the corners of Cebu, Davao, and every overseas community worldwide. She narrated with intense affection and awe, breaking down the teen's grueling battles, her raw tenacity, and that savage refusal to surrender, which dictates her entire on-court persona. Then came the exact phrase that paralyzed the country, staring dead into the lens with unbreakable, rock-solid authority. The legendary anchor stated, "Alex wars like a true gladiator, and she permanently carries an entire republic on her back. Just freeze right there and let that reality wash over you." This was definitely no throwaway honorable mention during some quick athletic recap. The legendary Jessica Soho unleashed an incredibly moving, meticulously crafted on-air homage, honoring a 20-year-old tennis prodigy hailing straight from the Philippines. This broadcast veteran approached Alex's journey with the exact same gravity and profound respect normally dedicated to history's most earth-shattering headlines. To the veteran anchor and suddenly to millions of captivated Filipinos, Eala became the single most compelling narrative unfolding in the world right now. The anchor passionately celebrated the athlete's explosive recent triumphs across the pro circuit, shining a spotlight on her flawless mechanics while praising her unbreakable spirit, fierce grit, and sheer willpower to claw back from absolute despair. These exact traits elevate true legends far above ordinary contenders. Suddenly, shifting the narrative unexpectedly, the broadcaster revealed the unseen reality. Brutal pre-dawn alarms, isolating nights, and the bloody calluses tearing her palms, alongside agonizing muscle cramps and the immeasurable prices paid by both this fierce competitor and her devoted loved ones. A mother and father who released their little girl while her peers were still navigating junior high, boldly believing their child's burning passion justified every terrifying, agonizing second of separation and doubt, the iconic journalist demanded viewers witness the complete saga, spotlighting those early mentors who recognized her dormant greatness long before the world caught on, the hitting companions who forced her to her absolute limits, alongside those suffocating, solitary flashes of insecurity that plague all future legends right before stepping into their ultimate destiny. The anchor's ultimate mission was to transform this breathtakingly local, awe-inspiring chronicle into a broadcast masterpiece that forced audiences everywhere to genuinely, deeply feel the brutal tolls exacted by her path and the profound significance of her victories. The second news of this monumental televised homage pierced through the isolated Miami training camp. Catching the prodigy mid-grind before a major event, the reaction proved instantaneous, wildly unrestrained, and absolutely breathtaking. The superstar completely shattered. Anyone tracking her professional career recognizes the icy armor she typically wears during matches. Lethal, hyper-concentrated, psychologically bulletproof, and radiating the silent swagger of a survivor who has conquered monumental hurdles. She almost never gives spectators a glimpse of weakness, but right then, the floodgates forcefully burst wide open. A quivering mouth gave way to a buried face as pure, unfiltered weeping poured out in an uncontrollable torrent. That explosive footage, dominating local networks and international feeds, captured her desperately fighting for composure, exposing a raw fragility that brought endless masses to their knees, totally floored and massively blindsided by the sheer gravity of the epic broadcast honoring her life. The phenom unleashed a spontaneous, emotionally saturated, entirely unplanned monologue that instantly paralyzed viewers and sparked massive nationalistic fire worldwide. Battling heavy gasps, each syllable she muttered stood as a brilliant display of raw, undefended, and staggeringly powerful expression, a moment entirely beyond the capacity of any corporate publicist, impossible for handlers to fake, and totally unteachable. She opened up regarding the immense privilege of hoisting her nation's colors onto the global sports stage, clarifying how this weight never functions as a suffocating anchor, but rather exists as a holy duty surging through her veins upon entering the arena. She flashed back to abandoning her childhood bedroom at merely 12 years of age, waiting near airport terminals, and bravely choosing to chase glory. The prodigy described those initial isolating phases overseas, the jarring foreign landscapes, the crippling loneliness, the haunting nights when success seemed impossible to grasp, and that desperate hunger for comforting voices, native aromas, and familial embraces. Channeling brutal transparency, she confessed to countless mornings where surrendering felt incredibly tempting, periods where nostalgia strangled her lungs with such ferocity that inhaling became a genuine struggle. alongside dark phases where crushing defeats and plummeted standings made her colossal leap of faith seem like an absolute, devastating mistake. But during these terrifying valleys, a place familiar to all legends, her driving force wasn't merely some textbook definition of resilience. It boiled down to the core fabric of her bravery, sheer grit, and unwavering devotion to her homeland. The athlete poured out her soul regarding a massive obligation anchoring her spirit. The heavy awareness that miles away, packed inside tiny flats, everyday households, and cramped quarters scattered throughout the entire island nation, strangers were jolting awake at midnight to buffer her games over spotty internet, screaming for every single rally, and utterly rejecting slumber until her final score was cemented. Such staggering devotion is impossible to brush off or abandon whenever the pressure reaches boiling point. Listening to the iconic news anchor, a childhood idol whose commanding tone and unmatched aura literally shaped credible reporting for an entire era, openly crown her a gladiator, while devoting an entire massive broadcast to her personal struggle, served as the absolute pinnacle reward for her bleeding, sweat-soaked journey. It felt precisely like every single agonizingly quiet midnight, every bone-crushing drill, and every split second she forcefully soldiered forward instead of walking away instantly hardened into one magnificent, explosive flash of total validation. So the real, completely unprotected, intensely emotional soul hiding underneath that gladiator's armor just violently unleashed all that pent-up emotion right into the lenses, bearing her soul to the planet, and the result was pure magic. Instantly, the global Filipino diaspora ignited in a tidal wave of support. The internet basically melted down, trending topics went absolutely nuclear, and supporters scattered everywhere from Manila to America, across Europe, throughout the Arabian Peninsula, down under, and all over Tokyo. Any corner of the earth where our kababayan planted roots amplified that raw footage, echoing her fierce declarations while weeping right alongside her. Broadcast networks and digital front pages plastered the emotional scene everywhere, triggering an absolute avalanche of messages that all sang the exact same chorus. Unapologetic honor, fierce respect, and a profound, soul-stirring bond tied to her relentless ascent. Millions spanning the archipelago and the diaspora roared in unison. "Your country stands behind you, champion. We adore you, never back down." You embody the ultimate, shining spirit of our heritage. There, on that Florida court, the sobbing of this stunning, wonderfully flawed, entirely genuine athlete mirrored the colossal blood, sweat, and agony she fed her ambition, and captured that breathtaking instant the universe finally started paying her back. The hype surrounding the forthcoming broadcast event is reaching fever pitch, flooding internet forums and feeds with passionate debates over which iconic milestones deserve the spotlight, which hidden chapters of her turbulent rise are still cloaked in shadows, and the intimately raw, unfiltered narrative they crave, stretching far beyond mere match points and leaderboard mathematics. The masses hunger for the complete picture, not merely the gladiator, but the brave 12-year-old child who walked away from everything she knew, the devoted kin, the loyal ally, and the beating heart wielding that grip. Armed with a mythic ability to spin a yarn and pierce the cultural soul, veteran journalist Soho is destined to craft this masterpiece. Yet, this phenomenon shatters athletic boundaries. Her meteoric trajectory proves what violently erupts when raw genius collides with a shot at glory and an absolutely bulletproof, starving drive. It embodies an entire republic discovering collective euphoria and fierce vindication through the triumphs of their homegrown prodigy. Sure, our islands forge champions across various arenas, but the court and elite, worldwide battleground, historically ruled by deep-pocketed empires boasting ironclad development machines, is an entirely different beast. The fiery arrival of this phenomenal girl is nothing short of earth-shattering. She stands as living, breathing evidence that fantasies materialize, that supposedly impenetrable walls can absolutely crumble, and that an island warrior clutching a stringed weapon and burning with ambition can slaughter the planet's most terrifying titans. Her saga echoes miles outside those painted white lines. Mothers and fathers from Luzon to Mindanao gesture wildly at their screens, whispering to their kids, "See that? The impossible is a lie." Witness the sheer magic that detonates when you keep the faith, bleed for your craft, and violently reject defeat. Mentors in dusty, far-flung academies invoke her legend to ignite a fire under rookies who previously believed the glittering summits of global tours were strictly forbidden territory. She is aggressively rewriting the DNA of our athletic ambitions, and that profound, paradigm-shifting legacy carries way more weight than any shiny trophy or leaderboard stat ever could. The moment her tears hit the Florida hardcourt, they were never just about her own isolated pain. Those drops fell for every starry-eyed child back home who ever gripped a handle and possessed the audacity to chase greatness. She wept for the folks who bled themselves dry, mortgaging their own comfort simply to buy her a ticket to this destiny. It was an outpouring for the visionary mentors who spotted a diamond in the rough and poured their very souls into polishing her raw brilliance. It was a torrential release for the loyalists who validated her existence, anchoring her with fierce adoration since day one, long before gold medals ever proved them right. And maybe, most violently of all, she broke down out of absolute, unadulterated thankfulness. An intense appreciation for an existence that, despite the crushing weight of brutal trials and agonizing isolation, dragged her to this hallowed ground battling at an elite global showdown, while the homeland's most revered broadcaster crowned her a gladiator on live television. This raw passion is the absolute lifeblood beating within court Eala tennis. The sport isn't just about swinging. It's a dramatic saga of mortal endurance, the shadows of silent suffering forging legendary triumphs, the unseen decades of grinding that explode into the viral spectacles everyone obsessively dissects. This prodigy is a total savage on the court, carving out one of the most breathtaking epics of our modern era. And we are merely scratching the surface. Expect us riding shotgun for the whole ride, feeding you the latest intel, gut-wrenching breakthroughs, lethal match points, and soul-shattering, tear-drenched highlights tailored for every single diehard invested in this mythical quest. This chapter sent absolute shivers down our collective spines, a monumental peak in her wild odyssey, and framing that magic is precisely why our network exists. Tag, you're it. Flood the discussion section down below with your thoughts. Did that massive emotional breakdown in the Sunshine State wreck you too? Are you eagerly ticking off the calendar squares until the master journalist drops her cinematic exposé? What specific chapter from her explosive run thus far genuinely made the hairs on your arms stand straight up? Spill your entire mind into that reply box. We devour every single word, and your insights are our absolute lifeblood. If this saga shook your core, rattled your bones, or swelled your chest with honor, absolutely obliterate that thumbs-up icon to force the system to push real substance. Still hovering outside our hardcore baseline community? Honestly, what on earth is holding you back? Punch that join button and shatter the alert chime to guarantee you have front row seats the exact second the next massive bombshell hits. Our broadcast breathes eternal tales, fueled by an unstoppable pulse, while our fierce admiration for true gladiators such as Alex Eala continues surging forever. You are watching Court Eala Tennis, the absolute roaring soul of this beautiful sport. Until our next epic clash, farewell. My legacy is cemented forever. Honestly, claiming ultimate victory under the Miami sun or suffering an early defeat changes absolutely nothing about my destiny. My reign is permanent, and I refuse to vanish. Never.